dare you take my son's bike?
What are you talking about? This is my bike.
Not for long!
r/EntitledParents.
Yes!
Our first story we'll be reading today. Insane Karen tried to steal my bike and then accuses me. From user I like tacos and turtle. After that, help! My brother is dating entitlement. From user True Madness. And then we'll be wrapping up with how I got revenge on my cheating ex. From user JennaBear7897. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories. And if you're an author who would like me to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Insane Karen tried to steal my bike and then accuses me. Hey Mr. Reddit and the Re-Army. I have been subscribed for 1 month now, and I love your vids. I'm on mobile, and this is my first post, so bear with me. So at the time, I was only 15 years old. Now I'm 24. That's not important. So, me and my 3 friends were chilling outside when we decided to ride our bikes. We were having a sleepover, so they brought bikes and some other things. That will be important later. So, we decided to ride around the area. After about 15 minutes, this woman pulls up. We don't think of it since she parked like 7 houses down. Eventually, she gets out of her car with her about 8 to 10-year-old son. She then started walking towards us. The conversation was something like this. Let's meet the cast. We've got entitled parent. You've got entitled kid. You've got me, friend 1, friend 2. Friend 2 is a girl. Important later. Friend 3, he is shy and doesn't really talk. And my mom.
Why did you steal my son's bike?
In an angry tone. What?
You stole my son's bike! Give it back, you little jerk!
I was a little surprised she called me that.
I will call the police.
We were surprised this lady was talking to us like this.
That's my bike. Give it back.
At this point, we decided to ride out of there before entitled parent could do something. We rode to my house and closed the garage. My mom asked what was wrong, and I said we'll tell you later. Soon we heard the doorbell, and at this point, we got nervous. My mom opens the door, and guess who it was? Entitled parent and her brat. They followed us here. My mom was like, "Can I help you?"
Your jerk stole my son's bike bags, and I then saw them messing with this girl.
She then had a smug look, saying, "Got you now." My mom then asked our friends if we were messing with her. Of course, she said no. My mom's nice, but if she needs to defend me, she'll be Hades. You better leave now, before I call the police for messing with my son and his friends. Entitled parent realized she was gonna lose, and my dad just got home from work. It was summer, and today was my mom's day of what luck. She then ran so fast I thought she was Sonic. Then that was the last time I saw her. Mr. Reddit, you have my full permission to upload this on one of your videos. Next we've got help. My brother is dating entitlement. Wow, it's funny how your memory just blocks some things. I thought this to be more crazy than entitlement, but I guess when it comes to the two, it's the same thing. So, allow me to tell you the tale of my oldest brother and the woman that comes from crazy entitlement. So, the cast. We've got me, the king of random. We've got Mom, my lovely mother. We've got my older brother and the sorry sap. We've got Kate, the entitled partner to my sorry sap of a brother. And Karen, Kate's entitled mom. And Darren, Kate's entitled dad. The first meeting. So this was during the first year when we learned that my mom has breast cancer. Not telling this for sympathy points, just for the story's sake. And all us kids help out wherever we can. So older brother decided to come for the weekend, bringing Kate along to meet Mom. At this point, we didn't know much about Kate. So Mom and I made plans that I would come around to her place, we lived in the same town, to chat with older brother and meet Kate. Sure enough, we do. At first, Kate was nice and polite, but her true colors eventually came out. Kate was not just entitled, but a heavy drinker and a liar. For example, Kate in a single sentence states how,
I don't believe in the supernatural. Ghosts don't exist, and that I should know. I went on a paranormal TV show with my mom. We saw a lot of things that night, and that's why I am a heavy believer of the supernatural.
Yup, she would contradict herself that bad. Kate would also voice her opinion about everything, any subject she had an opinion on it. The worst case was with politics. Kate was just spouting nonsense, and Mom, not the most political person, was still being polite about it and asking Kate to just keep quiet about it. Kate wouldn't. Now, being a mother to 6 kids, Mom knows the value of patience, but even she has her limits. Mom snaps. Kate, will you shut up? While I can accept your thoughts to your party, I do not need to agree with them. And you are being incredibly rude not to do the same thing with me. Kate, shocked, turns to my older brother.
Are you going to allow your mom to talk to me like that?
Older brother, not even looking. I didn't vote for your party last election. Kate just huffs and stomps off. Yes, actually stomps off, and went into the room that she and older brother were staying to have a fit. Older brother says, she does that when she doesn't get her way. The Battle of the Parents. After the first encounter, we learned that Kate comes from a family that is somewhat well off. Not rich, but just they have money. At this point, Kate had stated many times to older brother how she wanted a baby of her own, how she would make a great mother. My brother has 3 kids and doesn't want a 4th. Even Kate's parents would try to convince older brother to have another kid. This is when the battle began. My mom, being on the Book of Face, saw a post from Kate how she had missed an opportunity to be a mother because of a miscarriage. My mom, being nice, wrote a comment. I'm sorry to hear that. Short and simple, right? The next day, Mom was shocked to see that Darren had responded to her. Darren had a full-on rant. How my mother was a terrible person. How dare she even comprehend what his daughter was going through. That she raised older brother who would not give them a grandchild when she does. My mother responded in kind. She stated how she had 3 miscarriages and has breast cancer, and how she did not want to make it about her, that this isn't about her or them, that it was only between Kate and older brother. Things get worse when Kate and older brother were gonna get married, but older brother called it off. It was Karen's turn to take a swing in a post of her own. In her post, she states that my brother was a horrible person to break her precious daughter's heart. How he would be lucky to be with their family. He was not good enough for her anyways. My mom, when she feels we are threatened, is a lioness and will protect her cubs no matter how old we are. She responded in kind again. Kate and older brother are now together, and my family cannot stand her. It has gotten so bad that when we have a family get-together, we always ask if Kate is coming. If the answer is yes, we all suddenly remember that we are busy on that day. So yes, my brother is still with her. Her parents are still in their business, and she still wants a baby. Someone, please, send help for that sad sap. Anyways, thanks for reading. And our final story of the day, how I got revenge on my cheating ex. Hello, Mr. Reddit. I love your videos and have a story of my own that I hope you will find entertaining. It's pretty long, but hopefully it's worth it. Buckle up, because here we go. This story takes place almost 12 years ago, so I'll do my best with the dialogue and details, but admittedly, some things are a little fuzzy. Most of my life, I've had a problem with picking men that were not good for me. So much so that I even had a phrase for it, saving the world one moron at a time. One of my more spectacularly bad choices was a guy by the name of Bob. Obviously not his real name. I met Bob when I was working one of my 2 jobs at the local mall. He worked somewhere else in the mall, so we hit it off, and soon enough, we were in a relationship. Within a few months, my lease was up, and we ended up moving in together, which obviously in hindsight was a huge mistake, but I was dumb and lonely. Soon enough, red flags began to fly. He would say things in common conversation that were simply incorrect. Like there's only 4 continents, and the rest are actually owned by the Martian government, and thus don't count, etc. And when challenged, he would circular talk until you either agreed with him or dropped the subject. He would also make claims that seemed entirely unbelievable, such as when I asked where he had been staying prior to his mom's house. He said he camped in the woods. When I asked how he did that for months on end and without any gear, he simply gestured himself and said, "This is all the gear I need." The worst trait, though, by far, was his epic laziness. I have never witnessed someone so lazy in my life. Bob was unemployed for over a third of our relationship and would simply sit in the apartment watching Netflix or playing some war game on his computer, aka my spare computer, typing away in the group chat. He would never clean up after himself, leaving dirty dishes in the sink and filth on every surface while only taking a shower maybe once a week. The smell that permeated my apartment could only be described as revolting and could easily gag a maggot. I would inquire a few times a week on his job hunt, only to be dismissed or given a growing amount of excuses such as, "But I don't have a car. How would I get there? The bus doesn't run in that area. The internet went down, so I couldn't apply," etc., etc. Meanwhile, I am working double and triple shifts at my job to try to make up the lost income and running him all over town in my off time, getting applications and helping him fill them out and turn them in. Keep in mind, he doesn't have a cell phone, so all of these apps have my contact info in them. Thus begins the era of him holding my phone while I'm at work so he can make calls or schedule interviews, as well as I can get a hold of him from my store phone if I needed to. Things began getting weird. He began staying up later and later on this group chat, sometimes till almost dawn. Sometimes we would hang out all evening until it was time for bed. Then he would always make some excuse on why he needed to check the game before bed, and he'd be right there. Hours would pass, no Bob. I began to get suspicious, but nothing incriminating seemed to be taking place, so I just shrugged it off as me being insecure. Then he started asking to use my car to go see his best friend, Ben. Now, I wasn't super comfortable with this, but I did know Ben pretty well, and we got along almost better than Bob and I did. So I guess to a degree, I trusted Ben more than Bob and agreed to it. This happened a few times while I was working the evening shift, and he was always back at the allotted time with my car and my phone and relatively grateful for the opportunity to hang out with his buds. Suspicious? Yes. But I'm the kind of person that is loyal and trusting to a fault and don't assume anything without proof, and from every angle, all seemed to be on the up, and so I took it all at face value. So one day he asks to borrow my car and go with his friends to a card gaming tournament. He put on a great show, telling me how the prize money would help us out, and with the deck he had, there was no way he could lose. I just had to let him use my car and phone this one last time, and he would be able to buy himself a phone with the prize money. I wasn't a huge fan of the idea, but nothing untoward had occurred in the previous instances, and I didn't feel like spending my only day off at a card game convention that I literally couldn't care less about. So I acquiesced. I bought myself a couple green monsters and some other drinks and had my own little personal drunk party. Hours tick by, and no Bob. Eventually I pass out only to wake up at the crack of dawn, violently sick. This went way beyond a hangover. I started retching in the bathroom until there was nothing left, but the retching wouldn't stop. Hours ticked by, and I lay in the bathroom floor, sweating and convulsing with no phone, no car, and no Bob. I eventually was able to crawl to my room and wrap myself in a bathrobe before crawling down my apartment building stairs and began knocking on the closest doors. It took 3 apartments before someone opened the door and allowed me to use their phone to call my mom. My mother was at my apartment in 6 minutes flat and rushed me to the ER, where I was diagnosed with an aggressive and antibiotic-resistant strain of C. diff. Bob finally showed up later that afternoon, phone and car keys in hand, looking very concerned and claiming to be deeply apologetic, but my mom hated him from that point on. I was out of the hospital and back to work within a few days, but it was the beginning of the end. During these last months, we were constantly scraping by due to his lack of consistent income and poor spending habits. There were jobs gotten and there were jobs lost for various reasons throughout our relationship, but the final job was one I helped him get literally 3 buildings down from my own workplace. This company rents furniture and electronics on a weekly, monthly basis, and I happen to know most of the employees and the hiring manager as they are regular customers at my coffee establishment. I was able to use what little sway I had to get him on there, and he accepted a job as a delivery man. Within a few weeks, I come home from work to find a brand new TV and entertainment system and him grinning like an idiot. I tell him we can't afford this. We can barely afford to eat and are surviving off scraps I bring home from work. He talks about his amazing employee discount and assures me it's no big deal, that the rental fee will just come out of his paycheck, etc. I was mad. Not only had he not consulted me, he also had me on the account as well. My info had been taken from my credit app I filled out as a favor to help their numbers. So if he flaked, I was liable. Fast forward another few weeks, the rent is late and we are receiving eviction notices on our door. I come home from work and the TV is mysteriously gone. Thank goodness, I think. He finally realized we can't afford it and took it back. He gets paid, rent gets paid, and all is as good as it can be. Until I found a pawn slip for the TV in his pocket as I was doing laundry and went ballistic. He assured me he had plans to get it back in the works and to not worry about it. It will be taken care of soon and no one will be the wiser. I was too mad to catch on to the secrecy aspect of the situation. A few more tense weeks go by, with him working mornings and myself working evenings while we shared one phone and car, until that fateful day arrived. I woke up that morning with a migraine headache and opted to let Bob take the car, but leave me the phone so I can call someone later on for a ride to work. A few hours of uncomfortable sleep go by before I am awoken by the phone. I answer the phone, still groggy. Hello? There's a long pause on the other end of the line until a female voice asks, is Bob there? I felt a sickening feeling in my gut and began to shake. Is this real? Am I dreaming? No, he's at work right now. This is his wife. Total lie, but hey, is there something I can help you with? I wasn't rude. I phrased it as a genuine question rather than an accusation. Another long pause before she began to stammer about maybe she had the wrong number, but it was obvious she just wanted to get off the phone with me as quickly as possible, and I realized in that moment that I desperately needed her. Please, I said with an edge of desperation in my voice. I don't know what's going on, but I just really need somebody to tell me the truth. The last word came out in a sob, and I sat there for a moment in silence, trying to quell the urge to just cry uncontrollably. Listen, the voice on the other end was almost gentle. I need to make a few phone calls, but I promise you I will call you back. She said it calmly and with so much conviction that I really wanted to believe her. Please, you promise? I almost begged. I promise, she replied. Okay. I took a deep breath and released it. I'll talk to you soon," and hung up. I then proceeded to aggressively pace my living room floor, staring at my phone while chain smoking and muttering to myself like a crazy person. I knew who she was calling. I was replaying all those little red flag moments in my head from the last few months, pinning down dates or behavior I'd found suspect. When the phone rings again, it's her. I froze for a moment. Shocked, she followed through and called me back, terrified of what this meant. I answered the phone, and what followed was about the most soul-crushing 45 minutes of my life. After initial introductions, June, again, not the real name, and I began comparing stories, and it became glaringly obvious what was happening. They had actually been in a relationship several years prior and had run back into each other on the aforementioned war game where they began to flirt on group chat. All those nights he had been on the computer, he had been chatting with her. All those times he'd go hang out with his friends, he had been using my car to take her out and my phone to communicate with her. The time I was sick and alone with no resources, you guessed it, he was with her. Oh, but it gets better. "Do you have a little silver hummingbird necklace?" she inquired. "Yes, my mother gave it to me for my 27th birthday, actually. I love it." "Really?" she said. "Because he gave me one for Mother's Day." Oh my God! I almost yelled into the phone as I ran to my room and tore through my jewelry box. It wasn't in there. It was around her neck. From there, we discovered not only had he been giving her my property as gifts, but he had had her over to our apartment, passing it off as his own. I didn't want to believe him capable of doing something so cruel and disrespectful when I have allowed him to sponge off of me for the better part of 3 years. Unfortunately, as in confirmation, she began describing my apartment to a T, all the way down to my bed sheets. June said he even pulled my secret box from beneath my bed and offered to use my items on her. She said she found it weird and didn't partake, but I threw them away due to the sheer ick factor. Finally, she uttered the words I didn't know I wanted to hear. "You know what we should do? We should bust him together." My mind immediately started racing. Indeed, we should. I was a mix of fury, adrenaline, and despair, so my thinking wasn't exactly straight, and details begin to get hazy here. We arranged to meet up at my work and find a way to lure Bob over there, but unfortunately, she lived about 40 minutes away, whereas I only live about 6 miles from our destination, so if I got there first, I'd need to stall him, assuming he wasn't out on a delivery. I called a trusted coworker of mine at work sobbing and begging for a ride. To his everlasting credit, he got somebody to cover and left work to come get me and bring me to my car. When I got to Bob's workplace, I went inside to retrieve my keys. This isn't uncommon, as they know the car is mine, and was stopped halfway through the store by Bob's manager, wanting to talk about the payment due on our account. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but I said something along the lines of, "Look, I don't know when you're going to get your payment." I looked utterly defeated and told him we could never afford the TV in the first place, and how I had begged Bob to take it back, and now we don't have it anymore, as Bob has pawned it, and I don't have the money to get it out, let alone pay him. I was full on blubbering at this point when he stopped me to clarify that his employee pawned a rental TV under contract. I confirmed that this was indeed true and presented him with the pawn ticket. He was mad. Apparently, such an act is illegal and is terms for immediate termination, but he assured me that if I could get the TV back to him, there would be no harm, no foul, and he would terminate my contract without any penalties. I thanked him for his understanding and told him to let Bob know I would be over at my workplace. My heart is pounding in my chest, and blood is roaring in my ears. What was I going to say? What was he going to say? Would June make it here before he did? My heart sinks when I see Bob's hulking form making its way in my direction. I frantically scan the parking lot for June's car. She's not here yet, and I'm out of time. He hits the door looking out of breath and guilty as heck, and I just stare at him stone-faced. I walk outside silently to light a cigarette, unsure of exactly what to say, and he follows me wordlessly outside. He starts in with the, "It's not what it seems," and "It's all just a terrible misunderstanding," and I just let him dig himself deeper into his hole of lies. I listen. I nod. I pretend to understand until a particular car pulls into view. June parks in the space directly next to where we were standing and gets out of the car.
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Bob has gone visibly pale. He hangs his head and sits down on the curb, saying nothing to either of us. June and I greet each other and awkwardly shake hands before again returning our attention to Bob. June begins berating him on his lies and deceit, unveiling all of our mutual info and subsequent conclusions while I stood mostly in silence, agreeing at the appropriate times, but mostly still in shock. After 20 minutes of this, I finally mustered up the courage to take my stand. "We are done. I don't want to see you ever again. I'll pack up your things, only 2 boxes worth, and your sister can contact me in a few days to pick them up. Now, I want your key." I held out my hand and looked at him. "Not until I get my stuff out. Then you get your key," he replied. I tried to argue, but he continued to refuse and used his large stature to his advantage, knowing I'd have no chance in a physical altercation. He turned and walked away, heading back toward his workplace. June and I talked a little more before she handed me my hummingbird necklace and left. I stood there alone, staring at nothing, trying to wrap my head around what had just transpired, and then I cried. Oh, how I cried. With nowhere else to turn, I had only one call to make. To my mom. The moment she answered, I unleashed this deluge of words at her that were half sobs and half rant. "Stay right there. I'm coming," she said. God bless my mother. Soon enough, both of my parents pull up in my dad's truck, and my mom gets out to comfort me and give me hugs. I look at the driver's seat and see my father with his jaw clenched and a death grip on the steering wheel while staring straight ahead. Oh, crap. They take me to the pawn shop, and my parents write a check for more than $500 to get the TV out. We then drive straight over to Bob's workplace and return the TV to the manager. As the manager finishes up the cancellation paperwork, my dad spots Bob pacing around the back of the parking lot, talking frantically on the phone. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hear the ensuing conversation, but my dad returns within a few minutes, holding my house key and looking victorious. "I believe this is yours," he says as he hands me the key and then pulls me into a hug, and I cried a little into his shoulder. My dad gave me a squeeze, kissed my temple, and whispered into my ear, "They're firing him." I leaned back to look at my dad, and he just smirked and said, "Now he's jobless and homeless." I thought about it for a second before I said in my most sarcastic tone, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." We laughed about it a little, and my parents gave me some words of wisdom before leaving me to drive myself home, where my best friend was already waiting to keep me company. Bob and his sister showed up a few days later for his pitiful boxes of stuff. He tried to talk to me to explain, but my best friend descended on him like a harpy if he muttered more than a few syllables in my direction, so he was shut down almost immediately. He left that night, and I have never heard from him since. I blocked him on social media, but there was really no need, as he made no effort to contact me on any level. That's Bob, ever lazy, ever deluded, and always a jerk. So here I am many years later, happily married to my high school sweetheart, and the mother of 2 beautiful little boys, and grateful to have moved on when I did. The experience with Bob certainly took its toll. I lost a lot of weight due to lack of appetite, but had a myriad of trust issues moving forward. But the point is, I moved forward. I have grown leaps and bounds as a person since this experience, and am truly content with where my life is now. But every now and then, when I'm drifting off to sleep, I can't help but wonder, whatever happened to good old Bob? Is he out there somewhere? In the woods with his stick and his wits as his only gear, waiting for a Martian government to make its move? Oh well, a girl can dream. Thank you so much for reading, and I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to message me with any questions or comments. And congrats to our Regenerals of the day. Team Aeon, Detonator Organ, Tim Love, KC Cat 5, Raven Fox, JB Moneybag, Corsi Husky, Jonathan, Royal Tad, and Rogue. Become our next Regenerals by dropping as many Rees as you can in the comments below. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night, so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.